The culture is the keeper of the standards. We have a saying in our kitchen and we say, Caesar's not above the law. And so we have this set of rules that everyone has to follow from the top down in the hierarchy. So everything from the head chef to the commis cook. And the reason we say that is because we feel that for the game to be winnable, the rules have to be very clear and everyone has to be able to understand them and everyone has to be able to follow them. This is the way we greet someone. This is the way we set up our workstation. This is the way that we acknowledge someone else when they come into the kitchen. And everything's so clearly defined that everyone is on autopilot on a lot of those things. And what it does is it turns down the peripheral noise so we could really just focus on the thing that matters most. And in our case, that's making delicious food. The fact that we don't have to think about where our knife goes on the cutting board, or when someone comes in and you say, how are you doing? And they all answer the same way. They all say awake and ready. And that is so that we know exactly we're there for a purpose. We have a mission that we need to accomplish, and the mission is making delicious food. The places where I was most successful, I was happy and we had a great workplace culture. And the places where I was least successful, I was miserable and we had a very poor workplace culture. And that's when I determined that, okay, then let's make the culture first and let's make that the one thing that's non-negotiable. And let's put all our effort on building a great culture and a great workplace, and the food will take care of itself. All the rules that we created when we were defining what the culture should look like. And we sat around and there was a group of us and we said, what about this and what about that? And how do we fold a towel? How do we greet each other? How do we cut the fish? And even though we didn't all agree at the beginning, because some of them came from different restaurants with different backgrounds and they said, you should cut the fish this way. And someone else said, no, you should cut fish that way. We all agreed that we would put forward our ideas on how that should be done. And in the end, we determined, okay, for our operation, let's all agree that this is the way that we're going to do it here. And once we agreed that was the standard, then if someone colored outside the lines of the standard, we wrote it into our mission statement that call out anyone regardless of rank. So if I'm walking into the kitchen and I do something outside of the rules, the lowest person on the totem pole has 100% right to call me out. And I have to humbly take it. I've been called out because I didn't do something. And here I am at the top of the hierarchy and they say, Chef, you didn't do that a certain way. And I said, you know what, you're right. And thank you for calling me out. And I corrected immediately. If you want to instill pride, one of the things that we do in a kitchen is we like to say it's not a something for nothing. So everything has to be earned. So let me give you an example. If you're learning how to dice an onion and you're not very good at it, and your first onion that you put up, it's really terrible, and the chef walks up to you and says, wow, what a great job on the onion, then you're going to think, oh, okay, I mastered that. Let's move on to potatoes or tomatoes or whatever's next. But if I came up to you and said, you didn't do it right, let me show you how to do it better, and you came back to me and said, is it right? I said, nope, you still missed this. And time after time again, there was just constant little adjustments that I was making. And you went home frustrated and you said, every time I put up an onion for the chef, he says it's not right. And weeks went by. And then one day I come up to you and I say, those onions are perfect. It's going to be a completely different feeling than it was if I came up to you the first time and said, that onion is good enough. Because now you've invested something personal into how you're doing something. Investing something, sacrificing something to earn something and not have it be a something for nothing is really where pride comes from. So when we talk about turning down the noise in the kitchen, there's a lot of different things that are going on. There's a lot of moving parts. Everyone has different experiences and different backgrounds. So if you're distracted by all the different things that are going on in the kitchen, so for example, if one person's coming in with a red shirt and the other person's coming in with a blue shirt, and one person cuts the fish this way and another person puts their knife somewhere else, it starts to become a little bit of a distraction to the people that are working, because you start focusing on why is that person wearing the blue shirt and why is that person wearing the red shirt and why is he cutting fish differently from the way I am. Once we're all consistent and we're all working off the same set of rules, it turns down the noise of all the different ways to do things. And then we could really focus on the food or on whatever task that we're working on. So by turning down that noise, what I've noticed is you have this mental reserve that allows you to focus more on the task at hand and yield a better product at the end result. So Mathew Peters is an American chef. He's the first American chef to win the Bocuse d'Or, which is the equivalent of the Culinary Olympics, you could say. And being the first American to win it, I had to talk to him. And when I was opening up and I asked him, I said, you just won the Bocuse d'Or and you clearly had to have a certain mindset. I said, I'm about to open up the largest luxury hotel in Austin. What sort of advice do you have for me when it comes to building a team and building a culture, especially considering the fact that I'm going to have to build it with about 200 people. And he gave me some really great advice. He says, instead of focusing on the 200 people and making it such an overwhelming task to convince the 200 people out there, he says, just convince your 4 or 5 direct reports. Convince them and then teach them how to teach it to their 4 or 5 reports. And then it'll spread. What's really interesting when it comes to the culture is that a new cook comes in and they start noticing they're the only person that doesn't do things the way everyone else does. And so they quickly figure out, oh, I either need to start doing it that way or I'm going to stand out like a sore thumb. And so what you start to notice is that people that were never even trained on the culture just pick it up almost through osmosis of working next to some of the other people with them in the kitchen. In my opinion, regardless of the business that you're in, success is going to be determined by the workplace culture that you have. So if you really put focus around workplace culture and make that the number one priority, I think success will be imminent.